I'm going to give you some background on this clip we're going to play from Bill O'Reilly. Now, they have a stop and frisk policy in New York City. Now, what that means is that they get to totally violate your constitutional rights, the cops do, if you're black or Hispanic. And Jimmy, what do you mean black or Hispanic? Okay, so I'll give you the statistics, all right? So they have this policy where if the cops see you and they think that you're up to no good, they'll just stop you and frisk you and go through your pockets. And it turns out that they're not doing this fairly, which is a shocker. You know, when you think of New York police cops, you know, pepper spraying women and old ladies and pregnant people. I always think, when I think New York cop, I think somebody who's really about civil rights. So the New York City police have stopped and frisked 685,000 people last year.
Are you kidding me?
685,000 people were stopped and frisked. 685,000 people were stopped, and that's the ones that they're reporting.
It's a bad day in New York.
What percentage of those people would you say were black or Latino?
I'm going to say precisely a large percentage.
I'm going to say 82%.
Most of them.
I'm gonna take the devil's advocate on this and say 1%. I'm going to challenge you, Dore.
Okay, so the amount of black and Latinos made up 87% of the people who were stopped and frisked. That's almost 9 out of 10. Now,
well, at least they're finally winning at something.
It's like a B+, isn't it?
9 out of 10 people who are stopped and frisked in New York City are black or Latino. No, I'm not a math surgeon, but isn't that a high number? Doesn't
Pretty
that
high.
And do you know how many people, what percentage of people are innocent who are stopped and frisked?
I'm going to say 80%.
90%. So 9 out of the 10 people that they're stopping and frisking happen to be blacks or Latino and happen to be completely innocent.
Well, at last they're getting special treatment. Can they stop complaining already?
Haven't we given them enough?
New York City, they're stop and frisking over 500,000 people. 90% of them are black or Latino.
Almost 750,000 people.
Yeah, the KKK doesn't put up numbers like that.
I would love to be stopped and frisked. I'm a very lonely
Repeatedly.
man.
Well, here's what Bill O'Reilly was talking about this, and here's what he had to say.
And this is about racism. This is a racial story, not a drug story.
So he says right away, this is not a drug story. This is a racial story.
Oh, he believes that.
He's saying that. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll play it again. I know it's kind of stunning to hear him say that, right?
And this is about racism. This is
about racism, says Bill O'Reilly.
A racial story, not a drug story. Here in the city, we have stop and frisk policy, which has brought crime way down in New York. Way down, okay? And what that is the cops know who the wise guys are, they know who the dealers are, they know who the punks are, and they know who the muggers are.
And they just happen to be the blacks and Latinos. That's who they are. So what Bill is saying, it's about racism, but racism is okay if it reduces crime, right? That's what he's saying.
No, there's good racism.
There's good racism, what he's saying. 90% of the people stopped and frisked are innocent of any crime, but let's at least give the police credit for letting all those people go.
Yeah.
I guess.
And that's a very solid standard of the law. Yeah, they know who the bad guys are.
The cops
they know. Yeah, they know.
We don't even...
They'll say that. Do they say that in court now? Oh, he knew who. He knew who he was.
Business is booming. Why do you got to pick on the fact that Hitler's in charge?
Guys are. They know who the dealers are. They know who the punks are, and they know who the muggers are. And they try to get these guys on anything. It's like getting Al Capone on tax evasion instead of murder. All right. So they know these guys carry pot and other drugs, and they stop and they frisk and they find them and they send them into the system. That's what drives crime down. Get them off the street. The left hates that. Hates it. Because it is racial profiling, but it's really criminal profiling. However, there are a number of people
But it is
who
racial
stop and frisk.
profiling.
But it is racial.
That's like double racism, what he said right there.
Yes, he's like, because he's saying, I admit it's racism, but it brings down crime. So who cares?
Was the scene, by the way, where Elliot Ness keeps stopping and frisking Al Capone cut out of that movie? I don't remember that.
You know, okay, so maybe 80%, 87% of the people who are stopped and frisks are black and Latino, but let's not forget the remaining 13% who were probably white and were getting hassled by blacks and Latino cops. That's what I'm saying. I probably butchered that joke somehow.
Wasn't bad.
Also, it really deters the young people on the street who are ticklish.
Okay, he's got a little bit more to say.
The left hates that, hates it, because it is racial profiling. But
Yeah, the left hates it because they hate racial profiling and violating the Constitution. The right doesn't really care. Is that what he's saying?
Yes, that's what he's saying. It's putting up acceptable numbers for us. I'm willing to sacrifice your civil rights if it makes it easier for me to get to the Lion King.
Yes, yes, your civil rights. He's willing to sacrifice someone else's civil rights. Like if they,
it's really criminal profiling. However, there are a number of people who are stopped and frisked who don't have anything, and they get angry, and I understand that. But it's a crime-fighting technique that they're now going to take away from the NYPD. And mark my words, street crime in New York will go up because
along with civil rights.
Sometimes witches will float, and sometimes they'll sink. And I understand that can piss some people off, and some innocent people will be hurt.
Sure, blacks and Latinos get upset when they're stopped and frisked and they're innocent, but they need to realize that we're afraid of all of them.
You know, this is...
We don't know which ones are bad.
We don't know.
You know, seriously, if they went down this road, what they would end up having, they would absolutely end up having enhanced interrogation for people that they pulled in off the street. Where did you get that crack? Who's selling? You know, because since it was unthinkable a few years ago that we do that in the military, but we're doing it. It's not unthinkable that if we kept going down this road that would happen.
Well, let me just say this to Bill O'Reilly. Yes, the racist policy that you admit is racist and it's bothering other people, so you're okay with it because it brings down crime, because it doesn't violate your civil rights. Guess what? There's a pretty low crime rate in China too, Bill, and it's surprisingly easy to keep the crime rate low if you don't care about people's basic civil rights or whether they're guilty of a crime or not. I wouldn't be surprised if the next thing Bill O'Reilly suggested is a re-education camp in Minnesota. I mean, seriously, NYPD, it's bad enough you get to stop and frisk people without probable cause, but you couldn't violate the Fourth Amendment without racial profiling? It just makes me wonder if there's anything you guys can't do without racial profiling. I bet your computer crimes unit looks for websites that feel a little bit too urban. And by the way, Bill, it really doesn't matter that liberals don't like this policy. What actually matters is that citizens of this country are being made to feel like victims of their own society. When it comes to things like this, I'm going to be the first one to say it doesn't matter what me and my dope-smoking homosexual friends think. Maybe you should ask the poor minorities who get disproportionately singled out and patted down what they think of this law. Or I have a better idea. How about we have the cops stop and frisk everyone outside the Fox News building for a couple of months, and then we'll see how you feel about it.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, I've heard him, in the wake of 9/11, I heard him complain loudly about him being frisked going into the airport at the TCA.
Oh, he's upset with the TCA?
He was upset. He told a whole story about how they pulled him aside and they frisked, and he was really upset about it.
I think the racism underneath everything he's saying is this kind of inherent belief that minorities are this monolithic block where they're all aware of everything each of them is doing and they're all complicit in it. So, yeah, you're going to get stopped, but your cousin is the guy that's actually has the weapon on him.
If they could just tell us who the bad ones are, we wouldn't bother the good ones.